Hello, I'm Emmanuel Sanchez, and I'll be discussing Duchenne muscular dystrophy. An uncomfortable question that I feel might be difficult to say outright for some people is, why don't we recommend people who know that they have Duchenne muscular dystrophy in their genetic history to not have biological children of their own? There's adoption, sperm and egg donations, so that you can get genetic material from someone who doesn't have Duchenne muscular dystrophy. This question likely seems rather volatile, at least for some people. The reason why this is due to the history of eugenics. Eugenics was a scientific field that was more popular in the past, that was for the advancement of the genetic health of the human race. The reason why eugenics is not seen very fondly in modern times is due to it being used in World War II by Germany to justify taking people with disabilities and ending their lives so that they wouldn't be a financial strain on the state and so that their genes wouldn't be passed on to uh, the Aryan race that they spoke so highly of. DMD arises from an X chromosome mutation. What this means is that even if we were to have everyone who has Duchenne muscular dystrophy or who is related to someone who has Duchenne muscular dystrophy, that wouldn't necessarily eradicate this condition permanently. With a very high population of humans, it's perfectly possible that the random nature of mutations would lead to another mutation on the X chromosome and the condition reappearing again generations later. Mutations might be random, but given that the UN is expecting 11.2 billion people by 2000, 2100, it isn't too unlikely that one of those people would have a mutation on their X chromosome. Another thing that makes this question rather uncomfortable for people is that children who have DMD are loved by their parents, and those parents would not take well the thought that medical professionals would rather just have anyone who is genetically connected with the condition not reproduce, because it feels like medical professionals are abstaining from their responsibilities and just trying to find a solution where they don't need to research potential treatments or potential cures. I I also believe that this question is too pessimistic. HIV was a very frightening pandemic, and when people were dying and everyone felt so helpless, they might have been skeptical that in the future that people with the condition are able to potentially live long lives with medications. Uh, One famous activist is Magic Johnson. He was open about his condition and helped deal with some of the stigma surrounding HIV, and he's been able to live a lot longer than some less fortunate people might have been able to after they contracted the condition. So I believe that try, trying to ask, why don't we try to just erase this condition from our genome, is a rather defeatist and lazy approach to dealing with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And why would this logic just stop at Duchenne muscular dystrophy? Asthma is a condition that can be easily prepared around if you have the means through inhalers and through avoiding very strenuous activities or very cold temperatures. But it is still a condition that can potentially cause a person to die younger than they would have. And why would why wouldn't some people just recommend that we try to not have people linked with asthma to not have children themselves? And then there's mental illness. There are conditions like depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia um, that make life a lot more difficult for people, and being susceptible to those conditions would not really be seen as something positive. But it isn't a death sentence. It just takes more work to be able to try to live as well as you can. But by the logic that we can just have people with undesirable conditions not have biological descendants, we could end up telling people who are unhappy or who have some sort of psychological abnormality to not have children. And when we're reaching that point, there's going to be a huge amounts of people that would be asked not to have children of their own. And if we try to make them do that by force, that would definitely lead to a lot of very horrible situations that has been seen historically. And if we just focus on that and they end up having children even with that advice, that would just lead to medical professionals not spending as much time dealing with these conditions and trying to help their patient, and rather more focusing on trying to encourage people with desirable genetics to have children over undesirable, which which would not lead to anything very productive. It would likely just be a waste of time, and that isn't something we should do when conditions like Duchenne muscular dystrophy are time sensitive. And likely people would end up changing their mind in the future, just like we did with the topic of eugenics, where it used to be a popular justification in the past, but in the modern day, it's seen as something very sordid and unpleasant. I hope that by discussing this rather sordid question out loud, we were able to discuss why a seemingly simple solution might that seems rather shameful to consider, but some people likely harbor some thoughts secretly. It, I hope by discussing this and trying to refute this, that we are able to be more motivated to try to deal with Duchenne muscular dystrophy with medications and treatment, and that you're not as discouraged at how awful the symptoms can be for people, and that you'd have hope that this condition could be improved in the future. Thank you for your time and for listening my um, to my words.